Alright. I'll be sharing my full screen this time because I actually want to get done all of the filing questions without any stop, and I want to show you guys the file progression as well. I won't be making too many explanations, especially if it's a part where it just needs learning the function. So let's begin. So the first question says, open the file names ages txt for reading using the file object name called my names. So let's basically start out with saying my names is equal to open. We open a file like this. Then inside quotation marks, this is the format of this, so it's another thing you guys have to memorize. We can do this. I messed up the underscore. Then for reading, default is reading as far as I know, but I always do R for reading anyways. And write a Python function, print person. The question continues. So let's define our function that reads and prints 2 lines of the file. Call the function 3 times. Please note that the file location, and it's just giving tips about the file location, but that doesn't concern us. We just want to read 2 lines of the file and then just print them. So we can just say line 1 is equal to my names dot read line. Read line like this. This is a function you have to memorize again. Then line 2 is equal to my names dot read line. Then we just want to output that reads and prints. So we have to use the print statement. No need to use a write function. So we can just print line 1, then comma line 2. Then I think this should do the job, but let's see if it works. It's taking a while. Okay, it didn't work. I don't know why. It's literally the same thing, so I'm unsure why it doesn't work. Oh, of course, it's because I didn't call the function. That's my bad. I think since there's no return function, actually, let me just call it randomly to teach you. Okay. So this is correct. This is exactly how the answer is supposed to be. So you don't, as you can see, you don't need to put print. This is a quick tip. I fell into this mistake before. If you do print and then call the function, it's actually going to add a none here. So typically, you don't actually want to use a print statement while calling out functions about files. So that's how it works. Let's move on to question 2. So, okay. Also, before this, it's always a good habit to just close the file at the end of calling it. So it actually saves the progress. Okay. Let's move on. Open the file names underscore ages txt for reading. So this time, we're basically doing the same thing. Exactly the same thing. Is equal to open quotation marks for reading. Okay. And then open a file, person details. Hold on. And then open a file. And then open a file. I might have deleted something before. Open a file. The file name isn't specified here, so that confused me. But anyways, we're supposed to open a file called my output. And that's going to be open my output.txt, then for writing. So if you see my files here, my output file doesn't exist. So what the write function does is that if the file doesn't exist, it actually creates the file and then also prepares to write on it. So that's something we want. And then we want to continue with the question. So we want to define a function that reads the 2 lines of the file. If it is the first line, then it writes in the output file name and then the value. Otherwise, it writes in the output file age followed by the age. Call the function 3 times as usual. So we kind of want to do the same, but let's say line 1, actually just to save time, we can copy this part of the function previously because it's going to follow the same structure. But this time we want to say my output dot write. Then you want to say age plus, sorry, quotation marks, age plus, it's good to have a space here for formatting. Oh, I didn't mean to do that, line 1. Then you basically do the same, but hold on, the first one starts with name actually, I think. Yeah, the first one starts with name, age, and change the first one to name, and then this is going to be line 2. So this is going to be it for the function. So just like before, you want to call the function 3 times and then close it, but you also want to do my output.close as well. So if you run the function, then it's going to give you the same output as before. Hold on. Why did I get 2 of the same? Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, again, that's my stupidity. I have to call this function 3 times. Functions, of course, aren't named the same. I was confused, like this is not supposed to happen. But anyways, you see, you get the same output as the previous one. But what happened now is, if you go to your files, now there's a file called my output, and it actually has name John Brown, age 23, name Mary Summers, etc. So it writes on the file for you. So that's how it is. Then we can go to question number 3. Question number 3 is actually pretty tricky. So I hope you can understand this one. So write a Python function, read CSV file name. So define read CSV file name that can be used to read a data set from the UCI machine learning repository, such that the data of the file is saved in a dictionary in which the keys to the dictionary are the names of the flowers and the values are the list of the values of each observed flower. Test yourself. So if you print this, you're supposed to get an output like this. So initially, if you read this question, you might be like, I don't get anything. Like, what do you mean by flower name? But in questions like these, I always recommend you to actually open the file and check what's going on. So as you can see, this is a very long data set. So obviously you want to create a function for this because you don't want to go one by one. But try to understand the structure of the data set. As you can see, we have some numbers separated by commas, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 numbers. And then we have iris certosa, a string. So this one is obviously likely, almost certainly going to be the flower name. And in the question, it says that the keys should be the flower names. And what else does it say? In which the keys to the dictionary are the names of the flowers and the values are lists of values of each observed flower. So the key value pair, the value part is supposed to be a list of these values. So that is actually a really key thing to understand. But what's also really important to do in these types of questions is that you want to look at the example output the question offers you. For example, as you can see, inside the brackets there are only 3 values, whereas we have 4 floating numbers here. So it's likely that the 4th value is something we don't want to include. So that's also something to keep in mind. So let's begin. We want to start by saying, I'll go say f is open file name read. Oh yes, underscore is missing. Sorry, it shouldn't be read, and it should be R, yes. So f is going to be file name read. Then you kind of want to do, before that, you want to say d is equal to dictionary. You want to create a brand new dictionary because you want to save all of your values to a dictionary. And then you want to actually iterate over the file. And the best way to do it is actually to make your own loop. So you want to say for line in f is our file name. We want to say line. So we kind of want to change the line. So you want to make a dictionary and you want to make sure that all of these values are separated from each other, because what you currently have is the line corresponds to this entire line, but you actually want to add them, you want to separate these values with the commas. So first of all, you want to say line is equal to line dot strip. This is not necessary in this question as far as I know, but strip basically removes spaces or hard returns in the back or the front. So that's just the useful thing to do anyway, so I always do. And then you want to do dot replace, and you want to, sorry, not dot replace. Is that dot replace? No, yeah. You want to do dot split, and you want to split this line by a comma, so that the line now becomes a list of values that are split by commas. So the first element is going to be 5.1, 3.5, and so on. And that way, since you split it, the lines up now, you can actually add them to your dictionary. So you can say if I always like to put an if statement, but I don't think an if statement is necessary. So let's try to do it without. D, which value is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's the 4th value because it begins from 0. So D4, sorry, not D line 4, because now we split the lines. So it's a list now. So the 4th position of the line is going to equal to an empty list. Actually, now that I realize, we actually do want to make an if loop, because it is going to be the case that the flower might exist initially, and then it might not. So if, I'll explain it better, if line 4, the 4th element, which is the flower name, not in D, which is the likely thing that's going to happen initially, we want to do that so it's D line 4 is equal to an empty list, but then you want to make it so that, so you want to append values to the empty list. Then this is our empty list, then you want to use append, but you want to append the first 3 values. So you want to do like this. Why does this not work? I thought this would work. Maybe I should do this. What is wrong though? Append. Bracket was not closed by Pylance. What do you mean? then it does work. Oh, I see. You want to say line and then until the second number. Sorry. I assumed that Python would understand, but of course it can't. So you want to add the 0th value first and the second value. These are the first three. And then else if line for in D, so when it's the case that it is in D, well, you don't want to create an empty list this time, but you just want to add it to the existing list of the line 4 of the specified value. And after doing all of these, I don't think we should return D. Well, we should return D. If we return D and actually try our test function, I mean, maybe we did it wrong. You never know. But hopefully we did it correct after using the return. Did we use any file? Yes, we did. Before this, obviously it's a good habit you close the file. f.close is important. Find categories. That's interesting. Oh, of course, it's because I scrolled down. Then we can use this to actually check our code. Hopefully it works. And it didn't. So list index out of range. It says list index out of range. If line 4 not in D, why is it out of range? This is interesting. Maybe if I make it 3, is it gonna? No, it's not gonna change anything. I don't know, maybe I'm just delusional. It has to be in this format, but no, that's not correct. Okay, usually the best thing to do when you encounter a problem like this, especially in an exam, is to actually debug your code. That's the best practice you can do. So let the terminal load. So it reads the file. Maybe we're having an issue here. I don't know. For I in F, okay, so it does work. There is a hard break at the end, so we want to get rid of that. But do we? Because if we get rid of the hard break, then I think I get it. Because it gets rid of the hard break at the end. I say it's a good thing, but it's also good to understand it, I suppose. Sorry. It still says index out of range. Okay. I don't know. Let's actually see what's going on. So you want to split the values. Exactly, so it's a list. So I don't know what's going on here. So if line 4, not in D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. D is a dictionary, it is. And it just crashes. No, it doesn't. Okay, interesting. So we get so that the dictionary becomes. Yep, Iris Setosa. It's actually good to put the Iris Setosa back, by the way. So it actually does work. So our program is actually encountering another problem. So we actually want to add back the strip. But I think I get it. I'll add an elif here. We also want to add an if length of line smaller than 5, I think it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we actually want to continue the line. Basically skip the line. And if not, then it just goes on the process. And exactly, that actually fixes the issue. So we just want to, okay, it actually just prints out 2 values. So let's fix that by adding 3 here. Oh, of course, it doesn't include the last item. So now it should work. I mean, obviously, we don't have to check everything one by one, but they already gave us an answer kind of here. So 5.1, 3.5, 1.4, and so on. Yeah, so this is correct. We eventually found the correct answer. So that's great. Two more questions left. All right. Let's read question number 4. Write a Python function, find categories file name, to count how many of each category of images there are in the file training 0.01 txt. Return the result in a dictionary. Test yourself. So this is the expected output we want to have. So let's actually start defining our function. Define find categories. Then obviously f is equal to open file name for reading. Then before we continue, we actually want to see which file is it they said. Training 0.1. So we want to check how the structure of this looks. So the question says the images, the category. Okay. So if you read every line, obviously most of it is nonsensical. But if you also scroll, there's one key thing that changes. It's this part. And you can also see a pattern that you can actually group these information by splitting the line into a list split by the slashes. So that would help us actually just identify this here and say if it doesn't exist in the dictionary, we just say it's 1. If it exists, we just increase the count. So that would be a smart way to handle this. It's just understanding pattern of the file is crucial. You want to act smart about it. So for line in f, line is equal to line.strip dot split. You want to do the same, but this time split it by this. Oh, of course, I forgot. You want to create a dictionary as well. So then you want to say if line, I would say the 1, 2, the second element, if line 2 not in D, then we want to make it so that D line 2 is equal to, is equal to 1. And else if line 2 already exists in the dictionary, we want to make it so it actually increases the value by 1. So we won't want to say this equals plus 1. And actually, I think that's all. So if we return D, that actually should do the job. Surprisingly easy. Unless I just messed up the position, but we'll see. And yeah, it seems like it worked. So first try. Yeah, it's a really long list, as you can see. But all of them are 50, Abi 50, which is exactly what the answer expects from you. So let's look at question number 5, the last question. Write 2 functions. So this is kind of 2 questions in one. read grades, file name, and write averages, courses, and file name. So obviously, we first want to attempt these separately. Oops. Define this. The first function must read the grades as they are stored in the file exam_data_txt and store them in a dictionary, where the keys are the course names and the values are the list of grades. The second function must write the averages. So, of course, let's do the same thing in our files. Exam data. So we want to look at exam data. And if you look at exam data file, well, all of this is a string, of course. And in the second part of the question, you're actually supposed to find the average. So therefore, you actually, once you split the line, you want to convert the third element to an integer. This is actually a thing that's useful to quickly think about. Otherwise, it's going to cause an error in the future. So let's read again. The first function must read the grades as they're stored in the file exam_data_txt and in the dictionary, where the keys are the course names and the values are the list of grades. Okay, so the person is irrelevant. We don't care about the person, we just care about the course. So that's nice. So we just want to follow the same pattern at this point because it gets kind of repetitive. Open the file name to read, then open a dictionary, then for line in F, line equals line dot strip dot split. Then you want to split it by an empty space because you want to have Joe first element, course second element, and the grade third element. Because, well, obviously it might not always work, but in this file it all follows a certain pattern. So it's just smart to do it this way. Then you want to say if line 1, so the course name, which is going to be the first item, not in D, it's basically going to be the same, honestly. You want to say D line 1 is equal to integer. You want to convert it to an integer. Oops, caps, line 2. You want to make a list, don't you? Yeah, okay, so before this, you should create it as an empty list and then say this dot append, then this is going to be correct afterwards. Then when you want to append the value, then else if line 1 in D, then you basically want to do the exact same. And if it's as simple as I think it is, you want to return D at the end. Oops, you want to return D at the end. So to test our function, we can use this. So let's do it and remove this comment. Okay, so course 1 it starts with 10, 23, 8. So 10, where do we see 10, 23, 8, exactly follows the exact order. So we did it correct. That's awesome. That's fantastic. And as you can see, the values are stored as integers. Because if you try to compute the average in the second part of the question, well, you can't divide a number by a string. So you want to convert these to an integer before you do this. Now we want to go to the second part of the question. Write averages. So define right averages. Of course, also as usual, f dot close. Yeah, of course. I want to test it again before I continue. Yep, sounds like nothing changed. Awesome. Let's read question number 2. Sorry, second part of question number 5. The second function must write the averages of the grades as they're stored in the dictionary per course to the file averages.txt. So you want to create a file, so you want to write on a file. Well, I don't know how they expect us to format the file, because here they said the expected output is provided, but if you look at my files, it's not. I don't have anything remotely similar to that file name. So I'm just going to assume some stuff in this question, but it's not like it's going to be any, it's going to make it easier for me. So you want to write the averages of the grades per course as they were stored in the dictionary per course. Okay. And as we can see, courses file name. The courses is going to be the grades, the dictionary we used previously, and the averages.txt is going to be the one that we want to create the file of. So we want to say f is equal to, no, I'll say average shorthand is equal to, I don't want to confuse myself, that's why I'm naming it differently. Open file name for writing. That's what we want to do. Then courses. Do we want to, no, we don't want to create a dictionary. Do we want to go line by line for I in courses and such? Probably do. Okay, for I in courses, average dot write. So we want to write sum of I dot values divided by the length of I dot values. Would that even work? I'm not so sure about this. Average dot close at the end. Test function for this, write averages. Okay. This sounds a bit too simple to be true. Yeah, I dot values doesn't work. So the string doesn't have any values, it says. String object doesn't have any values. I'm curious. So I want to debug this. Let's see what's going on. So that's what we had in the grades. So we want to open a new file. Grades. So we want to write this. Sum of I dot values. So I thought I would be this, and the values of I would be the list of here. That's what I thought. That's why I did I dot values. But it immediately gives me an error anyways. String object has no attribute values. How else can we do this question? So it's a dictionary. Maybe we can do for I in range the length of courses. Excuse me. Why does it not work? Oh, okay. Length of courses. We want to make it so average dot right. It's gonna start from 0, from the 0th element. Courses. Courses I. Sum of courses I divided by length of courses I. I don't know, it seems too easy. Key error 0. Of course, that doesn't make sense. I don't know why I cannot solve this now. For I in what if I say courses? Because grades, yeah, we call out grades. Would this work? The argument must be a string, not a list. So it is correct that it's actually a list, but what if I convert this to a string? Would it work then? The bracket was never closed, of course. Then it works. So honestly, it's always good to see what is going on with your code so you can understand it better. So we actually have this thing called averages now, and you can see that it adds all of these lists. So this is fantastic. So I think it is the case that we want to convert these to string. So we can just say sum of this, sum of the courses divided by the length of the courses, I. I'm hoping this works. Where's the file? Indeed, so it does calculate the averages finally. So this is great. So we solved the question already basically, but we want to do a little bit of more formatting. So we want to say the average of course, the average of courses I dot replace. I don't know, I just want to make sure if it works first. So the average of course name is average. Then you want to end it by, hold on, that's double brackets here, with a hard return. Hopefully this does work. What bracket issue are we having? Oh yes, of course, a plus sign is missing. Still a bracket issue, interesting. Another bracket maybe? One bracket here. 1, 2. I thought this was closed. It's still a problem. It's probably because of this. Yeah, okay. The bracket was never closed. Oh yes, I get it, because we don't have a plus here. You can only concatenate string, not a list. Of course. Then you want to convert this to a string as well. Type error. Unsupported types where it's float and string. That is annoying. No, it should work. Yeah, the brackets are really confusing, I know. So the average of this was completely a mess. We want to say I. So the average of course 1. So I also want to do this though, if it works. Replace for readability. This is kind of like extension, honestly. Replace underscore with just empty spaces. And it does work. And anything else? Dot capitalize. If there's capitalize, what is there? Lower. This should hopefully work. Yeah, so the C also becomes smaller. So the average of course one is this. Yeah, so this is, I think, as good as it gets. So as you can see, the debugger function is extremely useful. I suggest you get used to this, used to using the debugger. It's a lifesaver, as you can see. I hope this video was useful, and see you in the next one.